And good afternoon. March 16, 2020. Kim Anderson posted a recap of Larry Kendall's video, and then Paul Carlson posted the video. I hope you'll watch it on Facebook Connect. There's really good information. And oddly enough, I was intending to do this before Kim posted it and Paul posted it. But first I want to tell you a little story about reaction and overreaction. A lot of people are saying that people are are being hysterical, going out and buying stacks of toilet paper and such, and that's absolutely true. That's just hysteria at work. Other people are saying, no, this is really serious, and we need to do everything we can. And the truth is somewhere in between. We don't know exactly where in between it is because we don't have the science to tell us. What we do know is this is an unusual virus in that it has a longer incubation period, and it's more contagious, albeit the impact for people who are healthy appears to be less than than some other forms of influenza or viruses. My daughter was in a restaurant a week ago, actually 10 days ago, on a Saturday night, 9 days ago, on a Saturday night. She and her family and in-laws were having dinner at a restaurant in Ypsilanti. And a week later, she had the sniffles, some coughing, some difficulty breathing. And I said, have you had a fever? And she said, no. I said, that's good. Watch it, be careful. If you have a fever, call your doctor. It appears that everything's going to be fine. She's doing better. But on that very same day, this past Saturday, they also discovered that someone in the bar within that area had been tested and was positive for COVID-19. Same place, inches away, within the air that she was breathing. But didn't present symptoms for a week. There's the danger, and that's why the CDC and the National Institute of Health and the World Health Organizations are all expressing the alarm, is that this has an abnormally long incubation period, and it can be spread far and wide before anyone presents symptoms. So what do? Well, first of all, don't panic. Do what scientists are suggesting. Wash our hands. Avoid huge crowds if you can. Take necessary precautions. But that doesn't have anything to do with real estate. What do we do about real estate? Do we sit back for the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 months, and wait to find out what the pattern is going to be as it regards this disease? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to sit back and do nothing. But what I do may be adjusted according to the science out there. And, for example, when was the last time you got on your phone and called all of your database, all of your past clients, all of those people who you work with? It's a great time to do that. It's a great time to go off for a walk or a bike ride. It's a great time to wash your car. There's a lot of things that you can do that are productive and good for you that aren't being prevented by this coronavirus. Have you written a letter to your clients? Have you just out of the blue sent them a postcard? Maybe they haven't heard from you in a year or two or more. It's a great time to take advantage of it. You got plenty of time on your hands. Although some of our agents are out selling houses, and that's their choice. I also know that some of our agents have expressed that some sellers are holding off until things settle down. Some buyers are holding off until things settle down. We have no idea at this point what impact this is going to have on our economy, on our real estate market this year, and so on. We don't know where it's going. But the worst thing we can do is panic. The best thing we can do is prospect. Get on the phone and make appointments and say, how about I come see you on April 2nd? How about we set up an appointment for, you might fill up your calendar for April with a number of appointments that you're making now. You can stay safe and at home and do that, or you can send out a letter to them saying, hey, I need business this year. I'd really appreciate your help because this might be a difficult year in real estate and I need all the help I can get to get leads. Who do you know who might be thinking about making a move? So again, what I'd like to see today's live stream focus on in the comment section. I'd like to see your thoughts. It's really important that you share your thoughts in a positive way about how we can affect our business positively during these challenging and uncertain times. Let's all try to help one another move through this, get to the other side, and be safe and healthy, but do business. If we take a leadership role as 5-Star, as a company, people will follow us. So I encourage everyone to share their thoughts in the comment section today about what they're going to do over the coming weeks regarding their real estate business. Are you going to be showing homes? Are you going to be listing homes? Are you going to be doing open houses? Are you going to be taking any precautions at all? Or are you going to put some measures in place to minimize the potential for transference of this virus? That's where I'd like to see this conversation go today, if possible, with your comments. I'm going to change up, and I think that's more than enough on that topic. Again, it's not going to be easy. We're going to face some challenging times. But if you look at what Larry Kendall is saying and what Kim has posted as recap, I think that it's a serious enough situation that we listen to the scientists and do what they recommend, but that we don't get crazy and get hysterical and panic and go out and buy 3 skids of toilet paper. Let's think positively about what we can do in this time of crisis. So, I had a call this morning, and I want to bring up an issue about the contract, the West Michigan, again, this is the West Michigan Purchase Agreement. This is the call I got. And it talked about a contract which was contingent upon the closing. It was the second box of the contingency options, contingent upon the second box, which is the closing of a particular property by April 9. The underlying sale, which had been delivered to the seller when the offer was delivered, has now fallen through. The question on the table is, can that seller put their home on the market and sell it to someone else? Please share your answers. This is a very difficult question with some layers to it, so stay with me if you will. The second paragraph, if there is a date in there to obtain an underlying offer as the second contingency, contingent upon the close of the sale, and oh, by the way, here's the underlying offer. If that offer doesn't close on time, does it mean that the offer is dead, or does it mean that the seller has the right to terminate the offer? The answer is no. It doesn't automatically terminate the offer, and it doesn't give the seller the right to terminate the offer. It is not an option for the seller. It's actually an option for the buyer. Now, the case could be made. I'm not an attorney. I don't know if you ever heard me say that or not. I'll mention it again. The case could be made by a good attorney, real estate attorney, that no, in fact, it does give the seller the right to terminate because the buyer was unable to fulfill the terms of the contract, which was to get the house closed by April 9th. Well, again, let's go back to the statement that our contracts are not time is of the essence contracts. So, could a competing attorney make the argument for a buyer that they were acting in good faith, that they've been doing everything to get their mortgage in place, that they're waiting for title work or something else, and so the seller doesn't have the right to terminate the contract? That's the point at which we step out. That's the point at which we step back and say, it's up to the attorneys. Y'all, let me know how it turns out, but I'm going to go have a cheeseburger. We are not attorneys. We are out of our lane when they start asking us those questions and we start giving them our opinions. Hand it off to the attorneys. Another attorney will make the case, on the same scenario, another attorney might make the case on behalf of the seller that it automatically reverts to the third option, which is this sale is subject to the sale and closing. In other words, getting another underlying offer, or the buyer hitting the lottery and being able to buy the house for cash. Could happen. Not likely, but could. So it doesn't give the seller the right to terminate the contract. It gives the buyer the right to terminate the contract if they don't sell their house or if that sale falls through. That is a contingency that they put in. But the seller is stuck, in my opinion, until April 9th, when the end of the contract comes, and then the seller has to take some action to terminate the contract. They need to fill out a termination that says one of two things. One, seller hereby terminates contract due to buyer's inability to perform according to the terms of the contract. That's one option. Another option is the seller hereby revises the seller deems that the contract is now subject to the sale and close, essentially the third paragraph, and may put the property back on the market and accept any offer prior to receiving an underlying offer from the current buyer. So those are a couple of things that a seller might be able to do. Again, you may get blowback from that buyer as to whether or not they're going to allow that seller to go off and remarket the property prior to April 9. That's where we get into legal questions. Let's see what else we have here today.
Did you get Lori Bursma's?
Lori Bursma has a question. Let's see.
Not a question, just
Oh.
a response to what you asked earlier about what they're doing now.
Is it under the Deal Doctor thing?
Yeah, it's in the doc, Google Doc.
It's in the Google Doc. Oh, there it is. Lori Bursma, I have been calling and it's good because people are home and available. Oh, that's a great point. And they are. I pull out onto Wilson Avenue just north of Lake Michigan Drive every day. And the other day there were no cars on it. It was amazing. That being said, I have put the conversation on how they are doing with the situation and getting very positive response. Lori, I'd love to know what those responses are. I think we all would. What are their very positive responses? I know that I was talking with my neighbors in the driveway today, and they were expressing concern. They were in my age group and maybe older, and they were expressing concern, but they weren't panicked. They were like, we'll deal with it if we have to deal with it. Yes, people older, especially those with underlying conditions, are at high risk. But most people are probably going to get through it, even if they get it. So I think the CDC, again, and the NIH are trying to minimize that spike, to flatten the curve and minimize the spike of cases so that the healthcare system doesn't become overwhelmed. Got a call from a consumer over the weekend, and I caution you all again, if you are leaving for vacation, spring break, I think is coming up, or maybe a little uncertain at this point, with the way that school schedules are being realigned. Spring break was going to be April 3rd or thereabouts, and through the next week. Now, we don't know what they are. But if you're going to leave town, let somebody know. Make sure somebody is covering your business locally, that you have boots on the ground to handle your business or anything that should come up with your business while you're gone. That's part of the company policy, and we hope that you will honor that and make sure that there is somebody locally handling your business, and that there is somebody who knows about it, particularly your client. So I repeat that one. What else? What other fun stuff have we had? So Amber had one over the weekend. Oh, yeah. This was interesting. Amber Wakefield had one over the weekend about having a fully executed contract, cash deal, no inspections, court sale. And her buyer wants to get out of the contract. And the question is, can her buyer get the earnest deposit back? And is the earnest deposit the only thing that the seller could get in terms of damages? And the answer is, I can't find any way, I can't find any out that the buyer has to get out of the contract. We talked about a seller's disclosure form. Well, did it happen within the 72-hour or 108-hour period that is specified in the Michigan law? And if you go to Amber's post, you'll see where I posted the language from the Michigan seller's disclosure law. It's very clear. A seller's disclosure form does not have to be signed by the buyer in order for a contract to be valid. The buyer has to take an action. They have to terminate, they have to write up a termination because of their findings on the seller's disclosure in order to terminate using the seller's disclosure form as the reason. They can't simply just not sign the contract and the contract goes dead. It doesn't work that way. Then it hit me that this was a court case. You mentioned it right up at the top. It's an approved court case. Well, that makes the seller exempt from providing a seller's disclosure form. So that's not going to work anyway. They were within the 10-day period to provide title insurance. Is there something in the title insurance which could cause that buyer to rethink their purchase and say, you know what, I don't want to move forward based on the title insurance? Well, that's possible. But in this situation, it's important that we remember that we are not attorneys, and that when these situations come up where we are required or being asked to interpret the contract and interpret the consequences of the contract, we must refer them to an attorney. We are driving out of our lane to advise them in that kind of a situation. So I think that was a great thread. If you I encourage you all to read it because I think it was very informative. A lot of really good agents chimed in, and we shared thoughts about it. And I encourage you, if you're not a member of 5-Star Connect, you wouldn't be watching this. But just thought of that too. But encourage your fellow 5-Star agents to read the stuff on 5-Star Connect. It is really helpful. So we're about 25 minutes in almost. So I will leave you with stay positive. We're going to get through this. Wash your hands. Make some calls. Stay productive. And I'll see you here next week.